Welcome to the 30-Year-Old Virgin podcast, where we discuss all things sex, love, and relationships. I'm your host and your favorite late bloomer, Allison Cadena, and today's guest is a transgender person sharing his life and journey on social media. So we're going to talk to him about his transition, as well as his journey with sexuality. Please welcome to the show my friend, Julian.
What's up? What's up? Do we do a little?
Yeah, I know, right?
It needs a clap.
It needs I say this every episode. I'm like, I need a little like studio audience clap right there. I'm gonna work on it. But thank you, Julian. We met in real life, but obviously, you meet people, then you follow them on social media, and I became obsessed with your social media content, specifically on TikTok. Because admittedly, I don't really know shit about gender transitions and things like that. I'm very ignorant about a lot of the things that we're going to talk about. And so being able to see on your TikTok the journey that you went through and some of the struggles and experiences that you're going through, to me was super cool and super interesting, but also extremely informative. So I'm when I was thinking of who am I going to bring in the show, I'm like, we got to get Julian in here.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for, to educate. I don't think you're ignorant. I think you're just a little uneducated in that aspect. Yeah. That's it.
Exactly. So now on that same vein, I want to say before we start talking about stuff that, because I'm not fully educated, we run the risk that I'm going to say some dumb shit. And so I've given Julian full liberty that if I say something stupid or accidentally offend or whatever, he's going to call me out, and it's going to be a learning for all of us listening, because I'm sure there's other people who don't really know a lot of the proper terms or, might say something unintentionally offensive. So if he does, he's allowed to. So I think we should start it off. Obviously, this podcast is about sex, love, relationships, but you have a unique experience of being a transgender person and having gone through that transition. And so even though it's not directly connected, obviously it's going to affect some of the other stuff that we talk about. So I thought we could kick it off, if you don't mind talking a little bit about your transition. I think it was also cool because we talk about late bloomers a lot on the show. Mm-hmm. And while we refer to that mostly with sex and dating, for you actually transitioned a little bit later in life. And so why don't you talk us a little bit about that journey, and then we can kind of lead into the rest.
All right, cool. So I started questioning my gender identity because it is separate from sexual orientation, at around 29 years old. And to be honest, since I was a late bloomer, I used to see a lot of younger kids transition. So it wasn't really relatable. I didn't have a story I could relate to. So I just started doing my research and getting comfortable with my gender. I was going back and forth with, am I non-binary, am I trans-masculine, am I transgender? There's so many terms, right? Mm-hmm. But around, I want to say it was 30, 31, I was like, I'm going to start testosterone. Because I've always wanted top surgery. So I was like, I need these tits out, And I started later, and I feel like it was the perfect time because I was at a mature level in my mind, in my journey, in my life, where I was able to fully kind of just focus solely on my transition versus everything else in life. I wasn't looking for a job. I wasn't looking for, I wasn't moving out. I wasn't doing anything as serious. So I was able to focus. But in that aspect, I'm definitely a late bloomer. There's a lot of kids that actually educate me that I learned a lot from because I was like you, quote unquote, ignorant or uneducated. So definitely a late bloomer in all aspects, which was a learning experience.
If I may ask, was there something that specifically triggered your interest? I think of, like I said, I haven't really encountered a lot of transgender folks before, but I know someone I went to college with ended up transitioning, and she said that she grew up in a more rural area, and so she had never really experienced that until she went to Japan, somewhere in Asia that is more prominent, and it was like a light bulb went off in her head of oh, I was born a woman, was that something did you have kind of a light bulb moment, or what was kind of the catalyst for you to start thinking about that?
I think I saw it on YouTube. Although we live in New York City, am I able to disclose our location?
Yeah. No,
okay,
yeah.
So we live in New York City, so we see these different things all over. Everything's accepted here. but I never met a trans person or trans guy. I met trans women, which to me, that's very normal in like the Latino growing up. And my mom even knew who transvestites were, right? But I never knew there was such thing as a trans man until I started digging into YouTube and I saw a top surgery like procedure. And I said, oh shit, like this is fucking possible. You can actually become this person. So that moment, I think it was around 2016 that I saw that. That's when like, I guess, I don't know if YouTube was big still, but that's when I was like, this is possible. And I just started drowning in content. Like I was on Instagram at the time, just looking for like, what is this? You know, what is this procedure? What are these people? What are they doing? And that was the moment. Although it took me from 2016, I would say 2 years, I was in denial for a long time. I just thought I wanted surgery and that was it. I thought it didn't mean anything. I thought it just meant I can still be Juliana, which is my old name, and be this person. I didn't really tap into that spirit yet. And when I did, that was it. Like it broke loose. I was just like, this everything is falling into place in my life.
Right. And so, you know, I wanted to talk about that just because one, like, just because I binge your TikTok doesn't mean everyone else knows your story. But also to lay the groundwork, you brought it up a little bit, and I know it was really important for you that we talk about it on the episode of like the difference between your gender identity and like your sexual orientation or sexual identity. And I think for a lot of people, it's confusing from the outside, but was it ever confusing for you? Like, I would think like maybe you might think, oh, you know, I'm a lesbian or something like that. Or like you said, maybe I'm non-binary, which is, I'm not really sure where that falls on the spectrum, admittedly, of like which side that's on. But was that ever confusing for you before you decided to transition? Yeah,
100%. I think that, you know, let's tap into sexuality because not a lot of trans folks talk about it, right? So prior to me transitioning and identifying as who I am today, I was bisexual. I first came out as bisexual. I was a straight woman, came out as bisexual at 13 years old. Was shunned a lot by it. So I ended up but I ended up just tapping more into females than men because at the time in high school, men are like dogs. So I became a dog. Yeah, they're still dog. So I became a dog. And then I was, you know, tapping into like the lesbian world. But I always felt different. I always felt like I look at my friends and I ask them questions and I couldn't relate to how they felt or how they see themselves in a relationship with a woman. And then it was just so confusing because I was just like, I don't know what I am because I was confused. At the time, I wasn't educated that gender and sexuality are two different things, right? So when I transitioned, I was like, okay, I'm more comfortable in my body. So am I comfortable to maybe seek male attention, right? And then I'm still going through it. As I speak right now, I feel like I don't know if I'll ever be with a man again, but I do find feminine men attractive. So I'm still through that whole confusion phase, but I think it's just a journey of anybody's sexuality who's open and curious, whether you're trans or not, you go through it. So, yeah, I'm still going through it. I'm still confused as fuck, but.
Right. And just for our listeners, I meant to clarify this of like, they get convoluted, but it's like your gender identity is who you are and your sexual orientation, sexual identity, sexuality, whatever is who you like.
Yeah, who you're attracted to.
And I think, unfortunately, because we have, you know, preconceived notions of like, you know, this is women like men and men like women. Unless you're lesbian, then you like women, or unless you're gay. And like, there's just like all those kind of like categories that we think people are supposed to fit into that we don't even consider like, well, they may currently be presenting as a woman, but they're actually identify as a man. Yeah. And so that's where like, whoa, now that's a whole different, you know.
It's very confusing.
Place.
Like when my mom, when I started transitioning, I started being more open and presenting more like a feminine gay boy, but I'm very closer to being attracted to women. But there are times that my mom will be like, but wait, are you gay then? Like, it's like, it still confuses her.
Right.
Because like you said, it's what you're attracted to is your sexuality and your gender is how you identify, right? So it is very confusing because like I get this question asked from my friends, like, okay, so you like girls, right? And I'm like, yes, right? And then they're like, okay, so you're not a lesbian, right? I'm like, no, dude, I'm not. I'm a guy. So technically, let's say for now, I'm a straight man, right? But then they're like, but how does that work? Basically, because of the lower body parts, right? So technically, visually, two vaginas rubbing against each other type shit, right? And I'm like, well, no. Like, it's not like that. So it is very confusing to the outside people. They're always like, so what are you? Are you gay? Are you queer? What is it? So it's important to talk about it all the time.
Right.
You know?
Right. And so that's one of the things that I kind of wanted to get into with you about, like, you know, you're going through all this understanding more of yourself in terms of your gender and like your like who you are as a person. But then there's that other layer of like you are a sexual being, and how has your sexuality changed through the course of your transition? Do you still identify the same way as you did previously? Obviously, there's the
confusion part.
The change of like, well, now I'm not, you know, now I'm male presenting. So I don't know if you could talk a little bit about how one affected the other.
I think I'm more comfortable now identifying as whatever, like whether I'm queer, whether I'm pansexual. Like I said, I'm still going through a confusion phase where I have been with men. I haven't been with men now. But I think that, you know, as of right now, I just feel like because I'm so comfortable in my body, like who I identify as, like it doesn't really stress me out, like if I like guys or like girls. But it is a lot more comfortable now for me to actually accept the fact that I find men attractive. Versus when I was a lesbian, it was like, especially lesbian culture, like I can speak on it because I lived it for like 20 something years of my life. And I think that it's very like anti-man, anti-male, like no, you can't be liking this. Like the way I grew up. Now the new generation is different. So now I'm not so scared to be like, damn, I find that guy hot. Or maybe I'll take him home. Or like, maybe I'll suck his dick. I don't think I'll do that. But maybe, you know, like shit like that. Before I used to be so scared. So just being in my body makes me feel human, basically. So.
Well,
yeah.
I'm glad that what could have been more confusing, like, got a little bit clearer for you.
A little bit, yeah.
So,
what are you, a therapist? Yo, out here working my sexuality.
I'm trying.
Look at you.
But then I also, you know, you kind of mentioned it, like you're working with a different body essentially now. And how has that been in terms of dating? Like, are you, I mean, I don't know your life like that, but are you dating now post transition? Have you like started dating, and what's that experience been like compared to like previous? Because you're still, you know, we were attracted to both genders, so it's not like that changed. But like now that you're coming into it as a man, or specifically as a trans man versus as more female presenting, like how did that change things for you?
Shit, it's hard out here. It's hard out here. A lot of people that I see like already had relationships before. Unfortunately, my ex left me. We're not gonna go into detail, but fuck her. Hope you're watching this shit. But you know, so it was really hard. I'm glad she left me in the beginning of my transition, where I didn't have so many memories tied to her in my transition. But let me tell you something. Being outside, especially because I know how to dress. And a lot of people confuse that for me being gay. And I know I'm going to repeat that many times on this podcast because you can't assume because of how they dress, they're gay. I get my nails done, I do my hair. I like that shit, you feel me? But no, like, it's so hard out here because straight women, cisgender, which is you, someone who was born a female and is not trans or non-binary, just look at me and be like, look at this 5'3" gay kid. Like, he's so cute. Like, girl, I'm not just cute. Like, I want to eat you out or some shit. Like, I'm trying to rip it up and you over here like, you're so cute. Like, let's dance. I'm like, no.
Like, no, shut up, I'm sexy.
Yeah,
I'm
like,
cute,
let me
I'm
be sexy. Like, let me be as attractive as Drake with a beard. Like, I know I don't have one, but let me do something. But nah, it doesn't work that way. It's really hard. So it's either like queer spaces are easier, right? Than, you know, straight spaces. And it's just been difficult. Yes, I am currently dating someone. it's been hard because they're cisgender and they're not part of the community. So there's a lot of educating, a lot. And that's hard because I already educate on TikTok, and sometimes, and I'm glad that she does her own research as well. But sometimes I'm like, damn, I wish I was with someone. Sorry, you don't hear that. But I wish I was with somebody within the community, you know,
that
like,
kind of understood. Like, it would be easier.
It would be, but I mean, you can't, you know, you can't, like, how do you say that? Like, you can't control your feelings to who you like. So it is what it is. But it is very challenging. Sometimes I feel like I don't have like hope, as emo as that sounds, but I sometimes be like, yo, it's just complicated. You know, it really is. Like, we go through a lot of things as a trans person. We have a lot of insecurities, as I may not show it, but I do. There'll be times I have really bad dysphoria, just like women who have body dysmorphia. They don't want to go outside. They don't want to try on clothes. They don't want to turn up. Me, I same thing. Like, my height, like, the girl got to be shorter than me. Like, things like that. That all triggers me. So it's hard to date someone trans. So whoever does, I give it to you because I know how hard it can be. But yeah, like, it's just tough. It's hard. And then we can get into the sex because that's nice. That's juicy.
And you're very open. That's another thing I do appreciate. That'd be all up in your business because in TikTok, you're very open with all of that. But, you know, that reminds me of, like, being a late bloomer. We have this kind of, like, hush-hush debate amongst us of, like, when do you let people know that you're a late bloomer? You know, when do you let people know if you're a virgin that you are a virgin, you know?
Yeah.
And it's, like, kind of like, do I tell them in the beginning? Do I tell them when we're further along? And I would think there's, like, some similar kind of questioning for you because I would say that, you know, you present very masculine and it may not be easy for people to tell right away looking at you that you are transgender. So is that a conversation that you have from jump? I mean, and then, you know, being transgender, there's, like, different body types, it seems like, depending on where you are in the transition. That, like, do you discuss what you have or don't have, or?
So I haven't gotten that deep with anyone. The person I'm with is, like, met me pre-transition, so it was easier. But I've had situations, like, I've been out, you know, any type of bar or club, and I'll dance with someone and it's a little too close, too touchy-feely, and then I for my safety, I get scared. So this is, again, everything I talk about on this, like, podcast is my solely experience. You know, like, every trans person has their different journey. So I don't want to be like, this is how it is, because it's not. So how I handle things is I literally just come out. Like, I'm just like, I'm trans. And sometimes I run away. I'm like, I'm trans. But I'm like, okay, I'd be scared because you just don't know. But a lot of the times it's just like, it just starts like that. I prefer to be honest. Not everybody does. A lot of trans men prefer to be stealth because they do pass 100%. Some people have bottom surgery. I do not. Some people don't want to talk about their bottom. I don't give a shit. You know, so everybody's different. But for sure, for me to be safe on all aspects, I'd rather just come out and just say it rather than holding it and keeping it a secret. I'm not going to, like, if I don't know you, if you're going to ask me, like, honestly, if you ask me and I don't know you about my pee-pee or whatever it's called, my shrimp, I'm going to just give you education. Like, I'm going to just be like, all right, cool. I'm not going to show you a picture, but I'm going to definitely inform you just because I know not a lot of us do. So fuck it. Like, what am I got to lose, you know?
Right. So. Right. And I think almost because people don't talk about it, people aren't as exposed to it. So there may be people out there that, like, they've never dated a trans person, but they're not, like, closed off to it. They just don't know really what to expect. Like, I'll say even the same for late bloomers. Like, you'll date someone who's never dated or, like, never known a late bloomer, and they might say some dumb shit, but it's not like intentional. They just haven't had that experience yet. So I think even the fact that you're willing to talk about it, like, that may open somebody up to, like, you know, okay, I don't know, but now you've kind of removed that fear of the unknown.
That's true. Yeah. I agree. Because I think, like, if I was with someone who is a late bloomer, it's nice to have that communication because I'm very advanced sexually. So it would be nice to know, like, okay, well, this person is like this. So I have to be mindful before just thinking it in the butt or some shit. You know, like I just gotta make sure that I'm doing it right. Like I gotta be like, okay, you know, little things. So it's the same thing. You
like
know?
knowing how to approach.
Yeah, you can't be all crazy, you know.
So I have to ask, did you take a break at any point from dating or from sex? I would think, especially like while you're going through surgery and stuff, there's obviously like a healing period. But was there ever like a conscious like I'm gonna take a break and do the transition part first, or anything to that effect?
I didn't really take a break, but I'm like a serial dater, a serial relationship person. Is
serial
that
monogamous? Yeah.
There you go. So it's kind of hard for me to and I guess be alone and be single, you know. Granted, the person that I'm with now took me time to like finally like be like, all right, because of what my ex did to me, like the situation with my ex really fucked me up.
Yeah.
So I'm really scared even to this day to kind of just be like vulnerable in all aspects, right? So but I did, so when I had top surgery, I let that person go, the same person. And I was like, I can't go through my transition, my top surgery, thinking about someone else, as selfish as that is. That's another thing about us trans folks. I personally think we're very selfish because we are doing this huge thing for ourselves, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're discovering yourself, literally.
Exactly. So it's like no distractions because you'll lose yourself. It's the same way like you lose yourself in a relationship or in a job. It's the same aspect. But this is your whole entire body, you know? So yeah, during that time, I did take a break. I don't know how long, but it was for a little bit. And sexually, it was all together because that's the only person I've been with like after transitioning aside from my ex.
Yeah. So you haven't like dated because you had that person already and they knew you from before too.
Yeah. Yeah. People have tried and, you know, I'll conversate with people here and there because there was a time that I was able to. I'm just not an open, like I'm a bad texter. I'm a bad caller. I'd rather see you in person. And honestly, like those characteristic traits before my transition is still the same. I'm still the same person. So, it's just too time consuming to be out here dating people.
Yeah. And it's probably easier because like you said, you don't have to even like complicate one thing when you're literally trying to figure out who you are. You made a huge change, like to like a huge physical change that's not easy at all. Like you talk about like the body dysmorphia, and so the body dysmorphia that I know you sometimes deal with, does that play into your like relationship at all?
100%. Like even before transitioning, I didn't know that's what I had, right? I didn't look in the mirror for I want to be honest with you, like probably like 2-3 years. Like I didn't look at one mirror. And I didn't know that was dysphoria and dysmorphia. So there's two different things. Dysphoria has to do with your gender, right? So anything that, for example, your chest, your tits, penis, vagina, whatever, right? You have dysphoria there. Your hips, it could be your hips. Anything that doesn't help you identify with your gender. So if I have too much hips and curves, I have dysphoria, you know? But if I'm like just chubby because I've been overeating, I have dysmorphia. So yes, 100%. It can actually stop me from actually like going out. It can stop me from having sex. It can stop me from even, just being like sexually active. Just like depression, like it affects me the same, at least me. So it stopped me from a couple of things back in the day. Still.
And so I guess this is kind of a tough question, but like, do you feel like your relationship with your body has like gotten better now that you are more male presenting and kind of more fitting into the identity that you are inside?
Hell yeah. I love myself, OD. People be calling me a narcissist sometimes, and I'm like, nah, yo. You know how long it took me to look at myself and be like, and actually look at myself back? Like, that's a good fucking feeling. Like, to just be like, damn. Like, even on the bad days, I look at myself, I'm like, all right, you're going to be fine. Like, you may look like a 13-year-old boy, but you're going to be good. Like, you look cute, you're good, you know? So it's a good feeling. Like, you really learn how to love yourself during this transition. If you just continue thinking positive and knowing that there's going to be a bright light at the end of that tunnel, like, it's a great feeling.
Right. And then does that help your relationships? Because I would think it's hard to be with another person when you don't even feel comfortable with yourself. So do you feel like it's had a positive correlation to like the relationship you're in now?
Now it did. Before it didn't. In the beginning, it was like really hard. I think that's why I kept pushing her away, because I push people away regardless, right? When I go through a depressive episode or anything, I like push all my friends away. I don't go to the gym. I don't do anything. So
you don't go to the gym?
No, I don't. I haven't gone in a while, actually.
We met at the gym, so that's why I'm like, you don't go to the gym.
No gym meat. I don't. I like completely like hash everything out. So in the beginning, it was hard. Like I would push her away a lot, and I'll be like, nah, like I'm not with it. Or anybody, even before her, an ex, like all my exes, like I would push them away. Like I'm actually like really close to my first ex, right? We're like best friends. So we talk a lot now, and she's like, you've changed so much. And it's like, yeah, because now everything that was a negative in my life became a positive. Even if it is still negative, it's still in my head. Like I always look at the silver lining of things, because I guess I just like, somebody told me once, because I used to be suicidal. So I told them about that. And then I was like really young, 12 years old. And she goes, maybe you wanted to end your life because you wanted to end that life, because that wasn't you. So I always call this my rebirth. And no matter how hard it is, I always just try to just look at the silver lining. Even if I can't see it at that moment, I'm like, all right, it's going to be okay. Because we've all been rock bottom. So we know how that feels. And that's just how I look at it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh. Thank you.
I'm so happy for you.
No, I'm kidding. I'm emotional now. What the fuck?
Good.
Stop,
I told you this is your Don Francisco interview.
Yo, this is Don Francisco. Where's the hot chicks that be coming out in the fucking bikinis?
Not that show.
Like,
not that show. No, he had another show. Remember Don Francisco Presenta?
No, that's why I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay. See, you thought this was gonna be Sábado Gigante.
Yeah, no. I was like, where's like look, there's already drums here. I was like, all right, let's go. We're gonna play some salsa. The lady in the bikini's not in there.
Later, you're gonna judge the singing competition.
You're gonna be number one though.
You're
gonna be number one.
But sorry, bringing it back.
Sorry, yeah.
Everybody gets serious.
Yeah.
No. Okay, going back to being like a sexual person, right? There are like physical differences now. And I feel like, I don't know if you talked about it or like I found it in my research of like even top surgery like affects like your the sensations to your actual chest and things like that. Has there been any like physical changes that have affected your sexuality? Like, oh, like, are you rediscovering what you even like or don't like? I'm sorry to be all up in your beeswax, but I would just think, because like, you know, me being a late bloomer, like I didn't have sex till like literally this year, and I'm like, I don't know what I like or don't like. Oh, I forget that not everybody, y'all haven't seen the episodes yet.
This is all news right now. I'm over here like, okay, let me write it down.
Oh yeah, no, sorry. By the time they see this episode, they'll have already known all my business. But you know, the name of the podcast is a little dated because I'm 31, so some shit happened this year.
It's all right. But COVID took that year.
Yeah. But so I find that like me, it's like I'm now having sex. I'm like, I don't know what I like or what feels good, and it's like almost like a learning process. And I would think now that you're dealing with a whole different body, that you know you've had surgeries that might affect sensitivity and stuff like that. Has it been that way for you too? That you have to like relearn like what you like or?
Yeah, let me break everything down for you. So this is kind of what I talk about, which when you start testosterone, there's definitely significant outside changes that happens, right? So facial hair, acne, scars, acne, you can have hair loss, you can have muscle growth, everything, right? This is before you even have top surgery. You don't need to have any surgeries for this. But also things inside your body change, right? So, well, this is actually external, but like, for example, internal would be cholesterol, things like that. Like, because of the testosterone, it can hike your cholesterol. People don't know that, but check your cholesterol. Doesn't matter what age you are either. So that's one thing, right? But another thing that changes physically is the clitoris, right? So down there, if you don't have surgery, me pre-transition, I had a clit, I had, vagina, whatever, lips, right? So as you transition, what happens is that your clit starts growing out. So you start getting like a head, right? So it's like a little head. There's skin. So I guess non-circumcised, I don't know. And it erects. But it doesn't erect enough to penetrate a woman, but it erects enough for you to see that I'm excited or things like that, right?
Yeah.
So
because the clit is just like a little tiny peepee,
basically,
and that like in anatomy, it's like literally the same thing. Just we got little tiny ones.
exactly.
Yeah.
And some have it bigger. Like some cisgender women have them bigger, right? And some you can't even see it. So that's what happens. So with that growing, one, I did not know how to wash it. I'm gonna tell y'all, it took me a while. Everything burned me to wash it. So that was weird. It got dirty in weird ass areas, so I had to like kind of move everything around. Like my lips are still there, but they're kind of like flattened out. Like it's so weird. It's like a weird looking thing, but that was like for me like huge, right? Because that change happened in like a week for me.
Wow.
Which for some people didn't happen for a while. And some people say that it stops growing after like your second, third year. So I'm hoping I get a little bigger, but
like I'm hoping we haven't reached
I'm hoping everything is good.
Yeah.
We haven't reached there yet. I'm almost at my second year, I think, whatever. But they say it can grow up to the size of your thumb, right? So like my thumb. So whoever's thumb. And that was hard, right? For example, when you eat a girl out, you lick it and you sometimes suck it, but girls are sensitive, right? I never had that problem, just throwing it out there. I never had any of those issues. I never had a problem coming, right? But as I transitioned in the beginning, it was so sensitive that I actually knew what half of these women felt like when they would be like, it's hard, it's sensitive, I can't, it tickles. And I'm like, what? But I get it now, right? So those were like, that shit was all relearning. Like, I didn't know what the fuck to do. You can't flick it. You can't, there was so many things. So that was a big change. But once I got it going, I know why men come in like 1 second. It's like so bad. I'd be like, I used to last and keep going. Like after I came, women, you can keep going. No.
You have empathy for like all the men now.
Fuck man, y'all suck. It's the worst. I'm like, I'm done. And I'd be so sad. It'd be like the worst movie of the year.
That was it.
But there'll be, I have good and bad times, so it is what it is. But that was all huge learning experience. It was really interesting. Also, another thing I want to touch on is that if you are like having penetrated sex as a trans man, you can, right? Because there's gay guys that are attracted to men, and I'm a trans man, right? So, yeah, if I'm gonna have sex with you, I mean, I also have that area that you could use. But a lot of the times, our whole dries up. So, like, there's a lot of shit that happens. I don't really know because I don't use it. Before, I used to use it, but it would hurt a lot, right? So I would like here and there when I was in the mood. Now, nobody touches me down there.
Yeah. And I would think, wouldn't that also kind of play into the dysphoria of like, I'm a man now and you're going to use like a vagina hole,
Yeah, I guess it depends.
Think, yeah.
It depends on like how you identify and how comfortable you are with your body, right?
Yeah.
Because there's gay trans men that like, they don't look at it. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak on them, but I'm making the assumption like if you're gonna penetrate me there, I'm just thinking like you kind of putting it in my butt, maybe like the similar comparison,
right?
I've seen it on porn and they look like they're having fun, so I'm hoping that is true.
Because porn is nothing if not accurate.
I know, but I'm hoping that y'all not lying out here because it looks like fun, but I can't do it. Yeah. But it looks like fun, so I'm just hoping that. It's a good experience. So yes, for some people it does trigger. For me, it doesn't really, but it's not, I don't come penetrating. I don't know how women do. I knew somebody who did and I was like this.
Great for you, man.
I was like, yo, you took the whole fucking award. You took everything.
What a beautiful life.
It is, because it was easy for everything. I was like, why am I here? You don't need me.
You need no skill at all.
Nothing. I didn't fucking do shit there, but yeah, so. That's different. Yeah. So I had to talk about that.
Yeah. Interesting. So I mean, we got in the weeds on but there's a reason because like, again, people don't always talk about this stuff. And like if it's if you are a person that's considering transitioning, like you want to know kind of what you're getting into. But with that idea, is there anything that like you were surprised by after your transition that you weren't really prepared for, and you were like, I wish somebody had warned me about X, Y, and Z?
Oh my God, this is going to be into detail, but I talk about this a lot. So, acne in my area down there was one thing. Like, I was getting cystic acne down there. And I mean, I suffer from acne, not anymore because thank you, Accutane. But it was like, I have videos. Like, I want to make an OnlyFans for those videos because they were like Dr. Pimple Popper.
Yeah.
And nobody talked about it. So one time I posted a TikTok and I just got so many comments that everybody was like, oh shit, like you too. And it was just so nice to hear, you know? So that definitely was one thing that I wish somebody would have told me.
Yeah.
And top surgery things, because a lot of surgeons don't really tell you what to do. I did all my research on YouTube. I've asked other surgeons when I had issues because my surgeon was amazing, but not really interpersonal. So if that's a word. So I didn't really have much information. I was kind of winging it after. And yeah, that was tough. I wish I would have had more support or more information, but I figured it out. Just that's why I always tell people to just hit me up because shit's not easy out here.
Right. You know, I mean, I feel inclined to say this. I don't know if it helps or not, but like cystic acne, like in like your private areas, is actually not even that uncommon. Like I suffer from, it's called HS, hidradenitis suppurativa, but it's like essentially the same thing, that you get like abscesses, boils, whatever, in like your private parts or like armpits and stuff like that. And I will say that I think that's part of what contributed to me being a late bloomer, because I'm like, nobody's ever seen my body, and like in my mind nobody has this but me, and I'm like, ew, that's gross, you know what I mean? And so then, you know, like now obviously like I've seen other bodies and I'm like, oh, actually, first of all, also Google, apparently
shout out to Google,
extremely common. Like, I'm here like, I'm disgusting, I'm the only one. Extremely common. But then also like seeing other bodies and seeing like other people have like similar either acne or just like imperfections. Like I was always very self-conscious of like my scars from my surgery. Everybody's got something. Everybody's got like a scar or like a weird like mole or like a whatever. So it's, I don't know, I just think it's interesting that like that might have been like a point of insecurity for you afterward. And I'm like, yeah, I got that too. What's my excuse?
We could have two boils together.
Yeah, exactly. We can struggle together. We can both. We can use the what is it? The clean and clear body wash, which does nothing. Personally, I don't think it does anything.
I would just pop them. I regretted that though.
Yeah, no, it's never a good idea. But a lot of things that we talk about in this podcast is about like non-traditional or like difficult kind of relationships, kind of like understanding people's views on relationships. And I wonder if, because you're coming into relationships from a different place, having gone through like your gender identity, your sexuality and stuff, how do you view like the future of your relationships? Like I view it as like, okay, I'm dating, you know, I'm going to date a man. We're going to be in a relationship for a while. We're going to get married. We're going to have children. Like this whole struggle that you've had with your gender identity and then with your sexuality, how are you able to kind of see like a timeline for yourself or like goals for yourself in that way? Is that something that you're still trying to sort out? Is it not even on your radar because you're like, I got bigger fish to fry in the moment?
Yeah, I think that I was so obsessed with like having a house by 30 and a family, and I froze my eggs for it, you know. Well, I still have them frozen somewhere. Shout out to my children. I hope y'all still alive. But
they're in a freezer somewhere.
They are. I
They're
haven't
good.
paid them though, so I don't know if they're still there. But sorry, I'm a bad dad. But I hope now, like before I wanted all that shit, and now I'm just like, no. Like if it happens, granted, great. But now it's like I learned so much how to put me first. It's so hard to put me second.
Yes.
In everything. Like even relationships, friendships, my mom, like it is so hard. But that's even before being trans. That's, you know, I lived my whole life from like growing up Latino in that household, you always live for your parents, right? Like it's like whatever like your mom or dad wants, it's like what you got to do. So I have that instilled. So I finally broke that chain when I became like outspoken in my transness. So that helped me now kind of be like, that is nice. Like that's cute having like the white picket fence and the kids and all that, but I don't think that's my time right now. So I go with my relationships, especially my relationship with my partner, I just live as we go. I know she's not happy about that sometimes, but honestly, I've already set myself so much expectations for relationships, and the last one crushed me so hard that I was just like, I can't go through this again.
Yeah.
So right now I'm just chilling.
Yeah. But I think also, I actually relate to that a lot. Like, I feel like being not just like a late bloomer in terms of like dating and sex and stuff, but like when you feel like you've taken a long time to become the person you want to be and like feel very like innately you, that like I feel the same way. Like I moved out very late. It took me so long to figure out who I am that I'm like, yo, y'all want me to have kids?
Yeah.
For why? Like I'm worried about, you know what I mean? Like, but what about what I like? Well, I don't want to give up my time for anybody, So I definitely get that.
Yep.
So I guess just one last thing, because I'm gonna be honest. There's someone in my life that I think right now is struggling between figuring out, is it their sexuality or is it their gender orientation? I mean, gender identity. Is there anything that you can tell someone in that position very early on of like not even really sure what it is that's wrong or like needs to be explored? Is there anything you could tell them that might help them kind of make that distinction of like, what, actually it might be your gender that's incorrect?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is to explore everything you're thinking of, right? And go through all those motions. Like if you feel like doing this and associating that with your gender and it feels right, just go through it. And the one thing that I struggled, which I actually said that earlier, was comparing myself to other people's journeys and anything, right? Not just my trans journey. So making sure you're listening to your own gut. And don't worry too much about identifying yourself. Like, don't over obsess over, over that, whatever. Just let it go. It's going to go naturally. Everything's going to happen naturally. So, my biggest advice is take your time. And like I said earlier on my TikTok, nothing is permanent and everything is fucking temporary. So you just got to write your own book.
Right. And it's almost like don't jump to the end.
Yeah.
I think we're so quick to want to like, we want to solve it, and perhaps what you need is to slow down and like look, like really like take your time and explore and see what is going on. Don't look for the answer right away.
Yeah, because once you look back, you're gonna realize how quick you went through it, and like going through the actual journey is a beautiful thing. Whatever journey you go through, new job, having kids, so take your time because life is fucking short. So just enjoy every good and bad at that moment and embrace it.
Love that.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on our show. So if you guys like what you heard, you definitely need to follow Julian on all the socials, TikTok especially. That's like your main, like, I think you post like every day?
Yeah, every day.
Every day something new about like what the transition is like, so you can really like follow along and see what he's going through. But all his socials are under at Julian F Vasco. And then even like I will say, even as a person who's not transitioned anything like completely out of that realm, it's just really informative. And like especially if you have people in your life who might be going through this, like I feel like I've just learned so much from watching these videos and kind of understanding what you're going through, so I could better support those other people.
Yeah.
And besides that, he has really good fashion too. So if you like fashion, you want to follow Julian, because let me tell you, I almost went to the Bad Bunny concert in the worst outfit in the world. Yeah, literally in my house clothes. I would have looked awful. But because I saw Julian getting ready, I was like, oh no, okay, we gotta step this up. I was like, Julian's wearing colors. We gotta wear colors. That's the mood, you know. So then even just follow for his fashion, if nothing else.
I'm just saying. Or my DMs are open, so I'm open.
Yeah. Not to hit on him, to ask him questions.
Please, I get too many of those. Just
don't hit on him.
Anything you want, just DMs are open. Yeah. Only on Instagram though.
Okay, cool. But again, that's at Julian F Vasco, and also just make sure you subscribe to our podcast, and we will be back next week for another episode of the 30-Year-Old Virgin Podcast.